Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Look what time it is. It is closed qualifiers here in Storm Competitive Series, starting things off in Season 5. My partner this evening is Sticula. My name is Chief Cass. My friend, hello.
Hey, Chief, how you going?
Honestly, I'm hyped. I'm happy to be here. And honestly, it's Wednesday, but it's actually my Friday, so I couldn't be doing any better.
I heard, yeah, you've got that a keen little weekend planning out. Gonna go drive around and get some driving in. Oh, you've
We're
got
doing some
the racing
vroom
wheel
this
there.
weekend.
We've got pretty good set of matches today. So for those of you who aren't totally familiar with the bracket and the system and the format, all of that technical stuff, pretty similar to the open qualifiers, there are 9 rounds of Swiss. And you can see the teams that we've had qualify here in Season 5. The closed qual, frankly, is stacked. And it's one of the best qualifiers that I think I've ever participated in as a caster, even looking back towards the recent Challenger League qualifiers and Season 5 for CCS before that. A lot of good teams. There's been speculation on who's going to make it, who might fall short, and where the expectations are going to lie, Chief. But we have to think about what are we going to have on this first match of the evening. PDHM versus Gatekeepers, 2 teams who performed excellently. Of course, Gatekeepers, I think, has the most matches played total. They managed to participate in both of the first open qualifiers, just missing that first open qual spot by a hair.
And well, if you see Qualifier 1 and Qualifier 2, it looks a little bit lopsided. It doesn't take a math major to realize that Qualifier 2 has more teams than Qualifier 1. The reason for that being is there's a team that ended up disbanding. Survey Corps, who is now known as In Control Nation, unfortunately had a bad breakup. So the team that finished in 11th place in open qualifiers, Aggro, would end up filling their spot. So that's why open qualifier is a little bit more lopsided, because more teams ended up qualifying. And then we also see 2 teams isolated by themselves, Emergence and Windstorm. Emergence was our 3rd place winner, and since Team 99 disbanded the old Lycus Empire roster, there was an invite spot. It wasn't technically an invite spot, but it was like a closed qualifier style system for Windstorm to end up taking that 4th place seed in Season 4.
So you do have some new teams coming in, especially Windstorm. I think one that not a lot of people know very much about. You look at the roster, there's familiar names. Of course, you have Crusher, who used to play on one of the old TSM rosters, and so now he's coming back to participate not only in CL, but also here in SCS. And that could be a real shakeup. There's not been much VODs, any film really on Windstorm, so it's hard to predict how they will perform. And I think that's sort of reflected in the community vote, as we've seen. Not a whole lot of people have seen Windstorm, and so they don't know how to rank them against some of the more conventional teams that we've seen play in T3 and T2 time after time. Project Neo, I believe, came out on top with the entirety of the vote, which is a big surprise considering some of the incredibly strong teams that we've got participating. You look at Aerial Arise, who have won multiple leagues, but now with a new roster, a bit of a different look after taking on a few members of that Survey Corps roster that you talked about.
And we love to highlight, the Challenger League rosters or the upper T3 team, but a couple teams really stand out to me, and it is going to be Trust Only Your Squad, known as Toys. And I was extremely critical of that roster back in week 1 of UPL, and I said when they played against any team, any of the upper echelon teams, particularly Aerial Rise, who they go up against in week 2, that they would get slaughtered if they didn't, end up changing their play style, end up working better as a team, learning how to IGL and deal with those mini games. And to their credit, they did every single mark of criticism and better. They would end up 7-2ing against Aerial Arise, and they were the dark horse in the qualifier, a roster that nobody expected to make it to this stage, and here they are. Ascension is the same boat, basically, where they would take a head-to-head victory. I believe it was against Versity, and that forced the Gatekeepers into 11th place. Now, the Gatekeepers would end up making it in the open qualifiers, but those are the storylines that we're going to have to see pan out throughout this qualifier. Are those rosters going to be able to make it into the league? Because there's only 10 that can.
And with CL veterans and some of your long-standing T3 competitors here in participation, I was surprised to see Ascension. I think it's one of those teams where you see that they made it in and you're like, huh? What's their roster? Who's playing for their team? And, we just haven't, frankly, heard much about them. Something else to think about, because the closed qualifier is the same exact format of the first two open quals, but with a little bit less teams, of course, because of that restricted entry. This is going to be quite the sprint that we have ahead of us. You can see our first match preparing there in the background. 9 rounds of Swiss, best of ones though. No best of threes, no long fought series across multiple maps, just a single map win. All that you have to garner. And for a team like the Gatekeepers, who plays so excellently inside of those best of one quick fire matches, that gives them a huge leg over the competition.
And honestly, if we look at the map pool today, you have access to all 7 maps, and as you highlighted as a best of one, we're ending up going to Oregon. And I would say that's an equal playing field for both these rosters, but it might actually favor PDHM slightly, because let's look at the Gatekeepers. They're playing in a lot of leagues currently. They're currently in AEL, and they played yesterday in AEL. I'm not sure what their map pool was, but if there is a cunning member of the PDHM roster in that stream, which there are actually a few of them, they might be prepared for some of the shenanigans that we're going to see out of the Gatekeepers.
You can see the rosters down below. A lot of familiar names, of course, on Gatekeepers. Few recent arrivals, not exactly the same roster that we had coming out of Open Qual 2. Whitlock and Feltwinter. They've been reunited after their time apart. They've come back, and, we've got the Dirty Dan's team, as it used to be known, kind of having a quick family reunion here, and that's a real scary sight. The chemistry that Feltwinter and Whitlock have, not only on top of the strong individual talents of Zeno, Gunner, Rexevi, and also their 2 subs, Apollo and Carnage B, that is a lot of talent to be stacked up on one roster. They don't have their real standout, though, in Grixer, and I think Rexen had a few games that he played with the Gatekeepers. Neither of those two are participating. Over on the PDHM gaming side of things, you look at their roster, and we've got a few players that you might know from the deep and dark depths of Twitter. Always watching EXO on his timeline. I think I've got tweet notifications on for him. He drops some real bangers. You should definitely drop a follow. But not only on top of that, EXO, a very consistent player across multiple roles that he's played in his T3 history.
So I love how we're here promoting closed qualifiers. You're like, follow my homeboy on Twitter. Make sure you turn those Twitter notifications on too, because he drops some bangers. That's a life tip. If you want good people to follow on Twitter, you should definitely follow me.
All right, Chief. But as you mentioned, we've got Oregon between these two teams. Honestly, for me, I think this could be... This honestly seems like a PDHM map. It's not, your coastline or your consulate where those fragging teams really come out of the woodwork. And it's not similar to Clubhouse where you only really have to have that surface level of execute understanding. Oregon, a little bit more in-depth. We will take a break from the theory crafting about what'll go down in the predictions for this map, as we do have the operator vetoes coming up next between these two first round teams. And Oregon, similar to Clubhouse, one of those maps where it's a pretty easy one to guess. You've got a lot of influence between the hard breachers and their bans on offense and the intel slowdown meta over when you get on the defensive side of things.
Oh, Borgen, please give me something different in the ban phase. If this is a Thatcher that rolls on through as our first ban, my hair might be being ripped out. And indeed, my hair will start to fly out of my head. But let's actually analyze that next attacker ban, because we've seen some Capitows start to roll on through. The reason behind those bans is you want to hold J Bunker as long as possible, particularly also the Pillar deployable shield. But that will not be the case. Access to the top floor is going to be mitigated just slightly, with Maverick falling in that ban phase, and also access to an additional set of frag grenades will be no more.
Following from there on, you have the full breadth of the hard breacher bans that we usually see, and, well, there's that old adage, if you have Thatcher and Maverick ban, you don't want to play against Decade, and the Electro Claws are such a trouble to clear. The final defender going to be Mira, and actually that's no real surprise. Mira very influential if you look at some of the stuff that goes down in the basement. Her windows are always a real problem, and honestly, I've seen a big rise in the amount of Twitch recently, and not just for the sole purpose of clearing mirror windows or electro claws, just because she's got flashbangs and the F2 is a real monster.
So we actually saw the Gatekeepers utilize Mira when we saw them in the first open qualifier bracket. I believe that was also in the first day. And the way they're utilizing Mira was in a position I've never seen it before. So we all know the rotation between the two bomb sites with that closet, the soft wall that everybody shotguns open. But instead of having that as a fixed rotation, what they would do is they would place the mirror window towards the north side of the map, and then they would vault over that mirror window. They would also leave the J bunker always open, reinforcing one of those panels with the other mirror window. So that way the attackers would, if they pushed in through J bunker, they'd have to deal with 2 sets of mirror windows. And it worked out really well for them. But Mira is always a default ban for most rosters, so it's hard to tell if that was actually a counter ban to a strategy that we've seen out of the Gatekeepers that was perplexing a lot of attacking rosters, or if it's just a knee-jerk reaction.
Something good to think about as we move further in the map, and there has been a few changes recently in kind of the tradition of the Mira strategies. I had seen the one where you would put it on the rotate, but not, or I've seen the one on J Bunker, but never on the rotate. So I wonder if, maybe we'll see Gatekeepers bring that strategy out again. I'd certainly be interested to see how well it plays out. We'll go first to the PDHM beginning defense. Up to dorms and second floor. It looked like Exo might have attempted a spawn peek. I'm not sure exactly where that was from, or perhaps a tiny bit of team damage. Either way, he's taken down below 75 right off the rip. Nothing of too much consequence. PDHM with a wide variety of explosives. You can see Exo, Rathy, and Subarctic each have a nitro cell to their name, prompted, running the only real static piece of utility in the form of that deployable shield. And looks like Rathy has been maybe droned out a little bit more than he wants to. Rotating back, he'll fall out of the main stairs position, likely to come up from the freezer side stairs and support Exo, who looks to be roaming on the first floor.
That basement can be quite a highway for defenders, but we've also seen it become a burial ground, or if attackers put some well-placed drones over on the freezer side of the map, they can catch those rotations off, and you can't linger there too long, because also all those top hatches can work against you. But Ralphie, he has not been caught out at all. He's currently going to be returning over to Classroom and try to deny that vertical pressure if it does happen. That nitrocell could pay dividends, particularly with everybody on their drone. And just like that, Whitlock and Gunner instantaneously evaporated from the lobby. Make sure you don't stack up, because you might get knocked down.
Huge opening double kill. This will seriously stall out the progress of the Gatekeepers, now lacking one of their main range soft destructors and one half of their hard breaching utility. Luckily for them, they've already managed to get this walk-in closet wall open. But in a 3 versus 5, getting onto the objective and achieving sound sight control is going to be a real task. Rexevi continuing to be pestered by the Evil Eye deep within the objective there. The other Evil Eye, closer towards the main breach, looks to be cleared by a frag grenade, and Feltwinter will drop off. However, here comes Exo flanking the main stairs. The pre-fire, but the cross angle from Feltwinter and a lucky rotate coming in from the garage does secure that trade kill. And look where we are now. Rathy's trying to come down the main stairs as well, or rather the white stairs, as he isolates the remaining members of the Gatekeepers and tries further to stall their progress. Rounding the corner, Sledge with good crosshair placement, and Rathy will go down as Feltwinter secures the headshot. 30 seconds mark the end of this round.
So the Gatekeepers actually have a lot of control of the map right now, in a position to plant that bomb. Rexevi is going to make it even better for him, but he knows there's somebody playing over by pit side. A bad reload is going to cost him his life. A nice cleanup with the SMG-11. Both rosters relegated to the same man count, 2-2 a pop, until an SMG-11 ends up that advantage. Now Feltwinter trying to hunt actively for his assailants, but he won't even be able to do so. PDHM take round 1.
Well, that was obviously a huge start of a play for Rafi, but also the refrag game from the Gatekeepers worked really well. With the sledge dropping down, they managed to isolate Exo and then moved in to take control of the bottom white area. Getting another frag there, that moved them into a 3 versus 3 where anything really could have happened. The Maestro fell to the oncoming Rexevi, taking control over by the main door, and luckily for them, Prompted and Subarctic, they stepped up in the hour of need to close out that round and to secure it. For PDHM, after a success on dorms, will go down to the basement on the initial rotation. No tertiary site cropping up just yet, and no real opportunities for another magnificent Raffi Nitro. He's not bringing one, instead opting for the impact grenades, likely to use them on the setup either for a top 4 realm or maybe even rotations within the objective itself. But this is obviously going to be a real extended realm. You've got the Jaeger being brought out. No Mozzie. The mute is here, but I don't think he will totally dedicate a whole lot of utility upstairs unless I'm mistaken. And you can see Subarctic beginning to set up what is very likely to be an extension strategy. They're going to hold down meeting. You can see the hatch is open. One of the big signifiers of that. You're not going to leave the hatch open if you don't have intentions of holding down meeting and preventing the offense from getting in there at all costs. Plenty of rotates open, really, throughout the entirety of the first floor. A very fluid setup on round 2.
Now, when we do see meeting room extensions, we see a lot of castle being played. And the reason for that is you want to force the attackers to spend a lot of utility on that upstairs. So if you bring a sledge, well, that's free utility. Quick sledgehammer will destroy that castle barricade, but some rosters aren't bringing out sledges, so that's going to take your Ashe and your Zofia launchers down range, but that has not even been a problem. You're still going to have to deal with those soft green barricades, but a quick bullets will end up shooting those and knocking them down. Exo's going to play this position over by green, extremely aggressive. He's spotted out on a camera. He's going to elect for to shoot, but he somehow goes to the swing and wins his one. Felt Winter loses his life, and we're highlighting the importance of that sledge. Well, those nades are no longer on the board in round 2, and with Gunner also falling, it's the same storyline for the previous round. Gatekeepers lose their man count early on.
Well, with the soft destructors both already dead, I think I would chalk this up to the beginnings of a success on the extended realm. It looks like the meeting control has fallen back. Instead, PDHM are going to opt to play this more by proxy, rather than station someone directly inside meeting with the chance that they die after the stage breach gets open. Played a little bit more passive, conserve that man advantage as was so expertly secured early in the round by WAV and Exo, and hold back and simply just play this one smart. But we know that the Gatekeepers have that individual talent to be able to frag out and frag back to secure the trades and the man advantage to equalize that as well. See no flashbanging. Now an air jab should lock Subarctic in position. A deployable shield might block the air jab from detonating, though. Totally uncertain as of yet, as Rexevi secures another trade. Exo over-peaking, overstaying his welcome close there towards the B bomb chassis. Rexevi will take up that position as well, and with that air jab, Subarctic can't get in position to toss the toxic canister, and that's a real problem now. One canister is wasted, but meanwhile, Whitlock finds WAV, and the plant is down on the ground. A huge win for the Gatekeepers as this air jab pays dividends. One frag over towards the connector, but wrapping around now, Raffi onto Whitlock. It's a 2 versus 2 with the diffuser on the floor.
The attackers can utilize that E-box hatch as an asset and play that vertically, denying any possible access to PDHM. But it might not matter. Where is the coverage from above? Forced to get back on the Alta. He's going to have to start to spray. He's stuck in a crossfire. He is aware of that, but he isn't able to break it down. Tossing and turning, looking at every possible nook and cranny. He does have red pings, which is going to be an asset for him, but he ends up looking too close to the wall. Rexevi will finish him off with a bearing 9. And just like that, a round back and forth between these two rosters. Sticula, I'm already going to call it right now. Round 15 will be in the future.
Just with the individual back and forth nature of these rounds on that tiny micro scale, this one is singing overtime to us in the casting booth. And so far, I think it looked like PDHM had such a good thing going for them. I wonder if maybe conceding control of meeting room was a bit of a hasty decision, and if they had held on to it a little bit longer, they might have been able to keep their man advantage Luckily for PDHM, each and every one of these rounds is a huge beginning. And the way that they start these off, it's easy to fix this. They're not struggling to gain the opening frag. You can see that the kills are certainly working out across both teams, and it just comes down to that mid-round adaptation. How they take the man advantage and fall back, it seems like they're giving a lot of individual one-on-one gunfights to the Gatekeepers, and in the defensive position, you have to utilize those crossfires to the best of your ability. Otherwise, you're simply spoiling that man advantage for no real reason. Because of the massive deployment of utility here on the top floor, just in that previous round, it didn't look like they had enough reinforcements left to seal off the J bunker hold. And because of that, it allowed a very easy crossfire from the offense to begin. We saw with the openings made, it looked like in the single wall and the player Nomad hiding back inside of Elbow itself, they were able to isolate both the Rotate and Subarctic, who was playing close inside of the small box as well, with a good place. Air jab, that plant really suffered no congestion, and again, for the third time in a row, PDHM will go aggressive and claim the opening kill.
PDHM has such a unique strategy right now. This is a 2-floor roam where they've opened up all the top hatches over in dorms. A brilliant shot through the wall. Felt Winter, with possible information the drone, is going to dispatch the poor Jaeger. Now Felt Winter, he knows that there's members of PDHM roaming upstairs. He can be forced to go for the gunfight. But what was unique about PDHM's defense is the fact that that meeting room hatch over and the north attic has been reinforced. You'd expect them to be playing that position because you can deny all of meeting room vertically. Now, I guess the reverse Uno card to that is the attackers, if they have control of that second floor, can use it against you. However, I would still set up my strategy, since you are roaming upstairs, to have that as a position where I, as a defender, can rotate through.
Raffi stuck between a real rock and a hard place here at the bottom of the main stairs. He can maybe get one frag for consolation. It won't happen. Isolated by 3 players at once in a flashbang to soften him up. That's an easy kill to give the Gatekeepers control of the man advantage 5, or rather 4 versus 3. Still, it looks like Gatekeepers are a bit hesitant to take control of the middle floor and the rest of the extension, as they are worried PDHM might still be lurking offside and trying to waste what remains of the time. And rightly so, as you can see, Exo now rotating up to the back of the attic. No opening there, and he'd have to whip out the shotgun and make a very large audible signature if he wants to create a flank opportunity. Instead, he will rotate down, returning to the site and coming to the aid of his teammates. Big stack up inside Freezer. I think that's where we're going to see the majority of this push originate. Feltwinter on low HP. A frag grenade in his hand launches deep into the hallway, but looks to have either missed its target or been captured by Jaeger's ADS. Here comes Zeno again with the air jabs, though, locking the PDHM defense into place and beginning the final stages of the execute.
It's going to be, I love the change up from the Gatekeepers. Instead of doing that north execute, it's a full south execute. And PDHM has taken them a while to understand where this pressure was being applied from, but they have read into it. The Gatekeepers are spending a little bit too much time just trying to identify exactly how PDHM was playing. Everybody's going to start to drop in this lobby, but both teams stuck on 2 men a pop. Whitlock pushing through the smokes. He might have just Stewie 2K'd past an SMG-11 Pro, and just like that, Subarctic saves the round for PDHM. A great showing of trigger discipline, as he just needed to sit patiently. He could hear the player pushing on through. Oh no, a huge small oversight.
Some guerrilla warfare getting down to business there for PDHM and claiming a big win on their basement. Now returning back to the dorms where we saw this play out in the initial round. EXO going to bring the cab can, not an operator we see all too often. I wonder if this is just a 6-pick? That would be my immediate thought, but I don't know why you would pick the Capcan to 6-pick of all operators, but I guess so. Oftentimes, we'll see the Capcan against your really quick, aggressive teams to kind of scare them into slowing down, and I think that could work. Gatekeepers tend to move quickly in taking their map control, and so having to worry about a Capcan could be a problem, but EXO 6-picks away from the Russian operator with the EDD shin removal traps, and will instead play the traditional slowdown off of the Malusi for this site hold. Last time we went here, the wall was open real quick, but the offense, Well, they suffered. They suffered in the master bedroom, and it was that nitro cell that really stunted their progress. I think without that opening 2K, the Gatekeepers would have made a lot more progress. They look very comfortable here on Oregon in the way that they're setting up their attacks. They know which areas they have to take control of, and they're not totally just getting lost in the bog of a PDHM roam or a PDHM extension. They know how to counter it properly, and that really shows the experience of all the players on this team.
And speaking about that roam, we've actually seen Capcan utilized a few times. A lot of rosters are experimenting with holding kitchen and dining room on their dorm site because you can nitro cell denial from underneath. And if you want to catch the attackers in a position where they're sleeping, well, you put all those Capcans downstairs because you're going to have almost an early warning device. It's not necessarily to remove shins from attackers, but that one bullet audio cue is going to be enough to say, hey, I should probably be not looking at the ceiling right now with the nitro cell in hand. I should probably be gun up towards that door frame. But also, PDHM is just a hyper-aggressive roster, and they can apply that on their bomb site wherever they're roaming. They can fly in through split, like EXO does, and Gunner, for the 4th time in a row, is going to fall. The struggle bus ticket is constantly being punched for this poor man.
That's a tough one here, and Raffi is looking to really drive it home as he flanks up the main stairs. A wide swing from the smoke, a questionable decision, but the trade, even more aggressive. It's a refrag on top of that, and, well, I might not have totally approved of that play by Subarctic. If it gets your trade back and forth, I guess it's totally worth it there now. So far, you lost your smoke, which is a big loss. Usually, if I'm going to put somebody on an aggressive push and try to really peek out of the site, probably not going to put my most valuable time denial operator, whose utility is really, I mean, the only one of this lineup you need to be actively throwing it through into the late of the round, otherwise, except for WAV. So, you know, taking the place of the Ace's corpse as he wraps around close at the Bolo door, looking over towards the white rotate and attempting to isolate here, but the Gatekeepers don't have much horizontal pressure down on the first floor, and so this allows, frankly, free reign for the PDHM defense to roam. Feltwinter crosses the security door, but fails to check inside proper, allowing Raffi a good opportunity to claim another frag as PDHM send themselves up by a factor of 2.
The primary support as well as the flank watch in a dire position where they're just going to have to sit into the bomb site and win their ones, where Ruxav will attempt to do that. His life is instantly gone. So, you know, collects 2, but an SMG-11 ends his life. And just like that, PDHM constantly bringing out these large-scale roams where they establish their troops in just about every single nook and cranny throughout the map. They fly around the maps with so much, you know, fluid motion that the Gatekeepers have no idea what to do. And what I like about the Gatekeepers, one aspect of how they utilize that Nomad is in aggressive positions. A lot of rosters are putting those Nomads on that flank watch where they say, all right, our flank has been watched. We have a Nomad there. We never need to check it again. However, constantly in T3, we see roamers just come in from behind, they shoot that Nomad, and they slaughter the attackers, and then the attackers go straight to all chat saying, how did you flank me? I had an air jab there. Well, they shot it. And as a result, we've seen the Gatekeepers apply it in aggressive manners, and it's been really messing with PDHM. However, the opportunity cost of those aggressive air jabs is you have to put flank drones throughout the map. I haven't seen one flank drone from the Gatekeepers, and I think that storyline really shows for them because, well, they're dying from flanks constantly.
That kind of worries me, your observation there. No flank drones. I think Gatekeepers, they want to move really quickly, and sometimes that works and is very beneficial to them. And even in some of the closest PDHM victories, it looked like the Gatekeepers had an opportunity to wrench it back. But in that previous round, I don't think that same opportunity was there. There was late rotate, and one player just simply walked right past Raffi down in the basement or the first floor hiding in security and just gave another opportunity call for PDHM to flex their muscles a little bit further. Going now to the tertiary objective, this is PDHM's first opportunity to claim a flawless site rotation and to take this one home and secure themselves at a 4-1 standing. Exo going to be sitting on that Malusi holding offside, and WAV will be bringing the Legion. which is not a very common operator. I like this position from Gunner as he locks off the open window, and if anyone from PDHM makes a late rotate to try and file down the meeting room hall, he could be in for real trouble. But the way that PDHM play this is not totally common. With off-site pressure, you don't usually see that wall having been open already prematurely, and you almost never would see somebody roam actively on the back tower stairs. There's a good crossfire too, though, for Wev. He's not totally worried about somebody going below because he knows he has Prompted guarding his flank. Winter looked like placed a nade down towards the Legion's position, which will force Lab back, and this should be enough for Gatekeepers to take control of that back tower. But meanwhile, Prompted finds Winter again. PDHM now 5 opening kills in a row.
Gunner is going to step off that bus that he's been riding for so long, finding his first opening duel. And PDHM is still doing what they've been doing through this entire series, roaming around the map, trying to apply pressure at every single turn. Exo, who is attempting to retake the freezer, is going to find himself facing a drone, as well as Gunner, who's in a position to start heating up. Now that PDHM has relinquished all of the basement, that's going to allow the Gatekeepers to utilize those north stairs and potentially start to send all of their utility downrange in a preparation for going for that plant. They have a utility to be successful with that too, particularly those smoke grenades. The way PDHM wants to play this bomb site is either through split or the deployable shield between the two bomb sites, and a well-placed smoke grenade will deal with both of those positions, but you have to be mindful of that attic hatch because the defenders can slam you from there.
The vertical opportunities that hatch provides are almost second to none, and this will further stall out the progress of the Gatekeepers. It seems like they've had a player in this position outside the stage door for the entirety of the round, but because of that hatch and the cross coverage achieved from Split and the kitchen rotate, they've not been able to get much done. I think the plant is going to come in the next few seconds, as you can see the flashbangs launch through, and Rexheavy going for a mad dash across the objective. They don't have a whole lot of utility to deny this plant. Exa will fell Whitlock, but in response, here comes Gunner, not only with the TK, but also taking out, looked like Prompted. So down on the ground, but in the perfect place to get rezzed back up as Gunner employs his lifeline utility. Outside, hiding towards the meeting hall door, he'll wrap around, playing this really safe, but look at the hard wall in a near perfect position, providing plenty of coverage to allow this plant. The only benefit here is they don't have the intel. The plant, the defuse begins, Gunner has to make a move. The time is getting lower and lower, and as he goes for the swing, he'll deny it. His third kill, 10 seconds as he escapes the objective, and the time is already run out. Exo has no time left, and the lifeline further drives it home. That's a quad kill and a huge clutch for Gunner against the 2 remaining PDHM defenders.
A valiant attempt for PDHM to win back their bomb site, but when you find yourself in a 2vx, why aren't you playing together? Where was the synergy? Where was the coordination? Imagine if you had somebody post up on that long angle. Well, when we saw Gunner go for that swing, he would have most likely lost that gunfight, or if at minimum, he would have been forced to take a gunfight, and with 3 seconds left on that defuse time, you might have still been able to get off it. A small oversight, but we were critical of Gunner early on for not finding any impact frags, and just like that, his 4-0 donut comes to an even scoreline. So props on him. I also have to be critical of the Gatekeepers. Where was their pressure on North Attic? Why didn't they open up that wall? One of the most common positions on that meeting room bomb site, and the reason you really go to that bomb site is because of the use of that top hatch. That top hatch will destroy any attacker that elects to plant in meeting room. Meeting room is a no man's land for both rosters on attack and defense. And whoever owns that top hatch, whoever has that high ground, it tends to be the roster that wins.
I think that was something that we could use a replay on to look back and see how that round really boiled down, because I think why PDHM didn't play together in the 2 versus 1 was because they just didn't have the right amount of intel. They had no idea where Gunner was hiding at. He could have been any number of places. Up on the hatch, lurking around the corner outside of the stage door, or even, upstairs. I mean, there's just so many places that he could have been guarding that defuse from, and you don't have a whole lot of time to clear carefully each and every one of them. Going now away from the tertiary objective. We'll head down to the basement again, which has been a big roam fest so far. A lot of roams throughout this entire map, but specifically the basement has got to be the winner of the roaming trophy. Gunner's position spotted, or rather maybe he had spotted Raffi, who was sitting just inside of the attic, walking around and mincing words with a few drones, as Wab will do the same as he burns out some elements of the drone economy. And that's something else to talk about. How many drones do they have? 5 left at the 2-minute mark? That's not a good margin to be sitting at.
Now, some of those positions that PDHM is currently holding might not be as safe as they once thought. They're being pressured from multiple angles, but Felt Wonder is going to play this very patiently. He's going to get challenged, but no damage being taken. And that security hatch is going to become more of a death trap. So PDHM has to decide, do I rotate now and drop into Fraser, or do I stand my ground? They're going to elect to stand their ground over on meeting side, but they did drop every one of their troops down to the basement. So the Gatekeepers have been in this position before, where they've lost attackers early on. However, it was always the primary and secondary entries. Now they've lost one of their hard breachers, but since you're bringing out 2, you still have access to all 3 of those Selma charges. So if you want to break down some of those reinforced positions, you're going to have enough utility to be successful, plus access to those smokes.
Whitlock with one of the only 3 remaining drones, a real I guess the desert of intel here. They don't have a whole lot of opportunities. I think there was did we just see an attempt at the reinforcement? I would hope it would still be an opportunity there. Gunner secures the trade onto Exo. 4 versus 4s, the hard breach utility sounds out onto the single panel. They're going to try to get that crossfire going again. Wav hiding close at Tuck, trying to fend off these 2 players in pillar. With Whitlock on the drone, he could go for a huge play here, especially if Zeno is out of position and Wav simply feels the confidence to wrap around that corner. I think PDHM are going to play this one slow. They know that the Gatekeepers are in the worse off position, but Zeno fells Raffi, who tries to flank in from meeting room. Not a lot of pressure onto the Smoke, who still has 1 gas canister left to stall the next 15 seconds of this push. Whitlock will begin the plant, and Wav could wrap around the corner easily to deny this as well. Whitlock, however, is successful finally jumping off the plant. Here comes Wav around the corner, 1 for 1 as he's traded out Gunner with another huge multi-kill play, and Feltwinter with the final frag. It's a flurry. The Gatekeepers orange across the board in the final round of their offense. Shut down PDHM in every way possible.
It's interesting how both of these rosters are creating strategies on the fly that just creates chaos. Gatekeepers like to go for quick insertions where they put the bomb down and then they scurry out as quickly as possible, where PDHM, the way they create chaos is through their roaming pressure. And they both, I guess, achieve the same goal, forcing everybody to go for quick firefights and winning their ones. And the scoreboard, I think, says a story. Both these rosters are more than capable of winning those firefights, hence why we're moving into round 7 with both teams tied apiece. But we're now going to have to see what PDHM is capable of on attack. They're going to be electing to go off traditional flank watch, but more for an aggressive style of roam clear, bringing out that Jackal. And will the Gatekeepers do what PDHM did on defense, where they had most of their man count off site, roaming over at meeting room, opening up all those hatches? Or are they going to do what most people consider a traditional style of defense, where you do an anchor hole, keep all of your man count in that bomb site? I don't think we're going to see a large anchor presence, simply because you don't have access to a lot of deployable shields. It's only going to be Rexavy on that smoke.
I'm also intrigued by the way the PDHM played around the drone economy. I mean, they were consistently wasting a good bank of Gatekeepers drones, but even in rounds where there was like 2 or 3 drones left for the Gatekeepers, they still managed to just brute force execute their way onto the objective, because drones, I mean, they matter a lot, but when Gatekeepers are in their positions, they're in their positions. And I don't think PDHM really exploited the drone economy and the lack of intel to the biggest advantage possible. And it just seemed like the Gatekeepers, if they needed a drone, they had one in just the right position. For PDHM, I'm hoping they don't walk into that same trap. Play the drones a little bit more smart in their use. Set up the flank drones, which we noted were absent in a few of the Gatekeepers rounds, and make sure that your flanks are covered and that you're not going to fall off early. Jackal track will come to effect as Gunner's position is spotted, but it looks like he's down on the objective, so that track really won't do you much good. And for the majority of this defense, they're all sitting at home. You've got a few players stacked up over here towards the backstage. I don't know what Rexevy was doing upstairs, creating a late rotate hole. This allows WAV a opportunity to run on through, but Feltwinter meets him there first and wins that simple engagement. Now the Zofia dead and gone. An early opening pick, and well, that's the first time Gatekeepers have found one.
Yeah, Gatekeepers, maybe everybody just wants to be on defense. It doesn't surprise you because, well, Oregon is still one of those defender-siding maps. And a statistic that we like to talk about a lot is if you start a map on attack, you have a higher % chance of winning that map. And it just comes down to you've kind of got to feel out your opponent more, and you're able to, well, apply your defense around that. Top hatch is starting to be opened up, but the E-Box hatch can be a double-edged sword. We've seen a lot of attacking teams elect to do a full YOLO hot drop, and as a result, they find themselves on the bad end of a Nitrocell, a bad end on a Smoke Grenade, or particularly a nasty Alda going for a wide swing. PDHM with control of the majority of the stairwells and positions to start their working their way towards the execute. But there's players on the Gatekeepers tucked up in about every single nook and cranny, and they're going to have to be prepared. The Nitrocell is so unfortunate. Right at Exo's feet, his life is lost.
No ammo left in the magazine to shoot that explosive. Raffi, the next one in the charge over here by the bottom main inside laundry. He'll swing out on open, but Rexevy fires off with the SMG, rounding the corner, prompted, checks the first angle, trying to turn around in a split second to find Whitlock. He's unable to claim that gunfight, and here comes Subarctic. One kill onto Rexevy, but Whitlock holds it down. The Gatekeepers now with 3 rounds in a row, an initial success on their defense and shutting down PDHM's offense excellently.
What is unique about the Gatekeepers' defense is they accomplished the exact same thing that PDHM was doing on their defense when they were roaming across the entire map, which is waste time. Both attacking rosters were executing and meeting at the 90-second mark. And sure, you can make the argument, well, you still have to open up all of those hatches, so you as a defender on Gatekeepers, you're accomplishing a little bit more, that you remove those X-Kairos off the field. But with her new rework, where you have X-Kairos in configuration of 2x2, it's really easy for her to open up a hatch. And honestly, that opportunity cost of utility doesn't pan out as much as possible, or at least as much as a lot of people will think. Nonetheless, we're going to see a site rotation because, well, they had a victory downstairs in that basement, and it's going to be the secondary bomb site upstairs in dorms.
Raffi bringing the IQ is an operator that makes total sense in a lot of situations, and sometimes I don't think really makes any sense at all. Looking at this one, you do have some utility you would like to spot. I think that's chiefly going to be Whitlock with the Valkyrie leaping out the window to set up his black eyes. And, you know, maybe Raffi will get lucky as he moves into the map and find a couple ADSs or bandit batteries through the floor. Whitlock tosses up the first cam and immediately drops the barricade, not opting to jump out and go for more of an expeditious camera, just that very simple one to try and get intel on the big window. For PDHM in this attack, it doesn't look like a big window push, not your traditional setup for the wide sweeping west to east clear. I think it would be. Don't have the compass on me right now, but going for that clear, the beginning steps are not here. Gunner jumping up the stairs, feels pressure, nearly walking right through the pre-fire, and a few damage done to WAV. A couple bullets in the foot as he'll fall back and give up control over here towards the master bedroom. Exo comes flying in, and Raffi files up the main stairs. So far, not making much use of the IQ scanner, as it seems. We don't have total intel on where the rest of Whitlock's cameras are, but Subarctic has intel on the position of Whitlock hiding close at the main breach. An explosive detonates under his feet as Exo tempts fate, wide swinging at the Bolo door, but unsuccessful in claiming that frag. Now, his distraction allows time for the hard breach to develop and the wall to become open, a critical avenue to the success of PDHM in taking control of games.
So PDHM knew that there's a Valkyrie playing close to South Games, and Valkyrie's an operator that has access to impact grenades. The only real way that you can justify a wide swing by EXO is if they're going for an impact grenade trick, because you want to make sure you have all of your utility landing on that wall and actually opening it up. And the man that went for that wide swing is now going to find himself in quite a big grave, as he himself got run out on. We're highlighting the importance of those Valkyrie cameras being placed early on. Well, there's the dividend being paid. Gunner's going to find another kill in this round, and just like that, PDHM has only one member less of their roster. A swing back and forth, but Gunner's unable to win it. Ralphie playing on the AUG, a weapon that isn't utilized a lot, but it has seen some play, and with Black Ice on it, it's going to give him extra damage points.
If only it'd work like that. Smoke canister real close to Ralphie here. He doesn't want to attempt breathing that in, and this looks like Gatekeepers taking one more step closer to match point. In fact, they will in round number 8. PDHM, kind of a rocky start to their offenses, not having total domination and allowing the Gatekeepers to play this really aggressive style is penalizing them at every turn, and this isn't going to get you much farther. The tertiary defense, I think, is the real worrying point here. Because if we see the Gatekeepers win on this side, I don't know if there's anything that PDHM can do to stop the defensive spree of rounds we see being accumulated here by the Gatekeepers. But if they can win this one, that would bring us one step closer at a 4-5 and would allow an opportunity for PDHM to equalize. If they can get their second win and return to that level of success they were able to orient as we kicked off Oregon.
Now, when the Gatekeepers run attack, they elect to do a North Tower execute where they just have the entire control of the North, and it's an incredibly linear push, and they never also dealt with that vertical play. I want PDHM to learn from that lesson. Now, sure, Gatekeepers did end up winning round 5, but I'd like PDHM to maybe push in through big window or upstairs master bedroom and try to clear as much of that top floor as possible. Then you start with vertical play, especially since you have that sledge. You remove the entire ceiling of the B bomb chassis, and then you have the opportunity of saying, do I want to go for a B plant or do I want to go for a meeting room plant? And I like rosters to have flexibility. Sir, I say, we're going to try to plant in meeting room. Well, when you go for that roam clear, you can say, hey, we actually have a better avenue to plant in the B-bomb chassis, so why don't we try that? Now, with a small tower pressure already being established by PDHM, it indeed will most likely be a swift, big tower execute, as Dining Room is in full control of PDHM.
This looks like PDHM really want to exert their force onto the kitchen early and waste no time in doing so. They have hard breach from Prompted. I don't know where the Habana is just yet. Maybe she's still in the backed small tower area, getting set up for the next stages of this assault. You have Xeno on the vertical support, so even if you manage to get in, I don't think a plant is going to necessarily be free, and that's going to cause a flurry of problems. Especially if PDHM try to run in and sink the plant and have 2 players die at once. We've seen them really collapse. As soon as that opening kill doesn't go their way, they don't have that same ability the Gatekeepers did, where they were able to skirmish back and forth and in every man down scenario still managed to bring it back. Distraction being made here by the castle allows time for Gunner to swing up, catching the Ash off guard. A drone even spots him, but a TK from Prompted. A huge mistake, even if it does get the trade. However, Prompted finds Feltwinter, a foolhardy decision to attempt the reinforcement. Now as EXO takes control of dorms, he finds Xeno as well. Rexevi and Whitlock, the only 2 remaining defenders, and for PDHM, the first time in forever that they seem to be in the advantage. At a 3-2, the hard breaching process will commence as the single panel wall for the kitchen opens up and compromises any bomb site locations as well. On top of that, you'll see the remaining Gatekeepers members linger outside the fringe of the site.
So Gunner was 4-0, now sitting at 11-6, which technically means if you take away those first 4 early deaths, he's sitting at 11-2. The impact he's had in just about every single round after round 5 is so important because he can continue on that train, isolating and winning his ones, but he's going to be relegated over to camera duty, and also the importance that Jackal is going to start to come in. You're going to have constant information of where the Gatekeepers are playing, and Rexevi has just rotated off the bomb site. That means it's a temporary 1v3. The ult is going to lose that engagement. Whitlock now falls, and it's on Rexavy. Forced to retake his own bomb site. The diffuser's down. He won't even be able to get into a gunfight as he's swiftly removed. PDHM stops the bleeding.
Well, the tertiary defense works out for them, or I guess the tertiary offense. It's Gatekeepers who come up short in round number 9, and now progressing into the next one. Their momentum is stalled out just a little bit as PDHM attempt to resurge. Going down to the basement is a difficult task, but let's break down everything that needs to happen. I think it's Gatekeepers who... they haven't even been playing really much of a roam. I mean, there was like one player that hit out in the back tower and got one kill. It was Feltwinter, I believe, in that round, who got WAV, and you can't be taking such an early loss like that. For Feltwinter to find WAV with no support from a drone, just solo pushing in from the attic, I think is one misstep in what has otherwise been a very coordinated, smart, and calculated PDHM. They haven't made a whole lot of these wide sweeping mistakes where they forget to drone something or they walk into a trap. You have to be much more concerted. On Oregon, there's not really any opportunities to play as an individual. You need that team effort to be able to take control of the site, especially when you're playing against the Gatekeepers, who are somewhat playing as individuals, trying to go for those one-for-one aggressive plays. As a team, that's your biggest boost to being able to stop the aggressive plays in the trap. Go for those 2-at-1 fights and try to contest someone not just as a single individual. At least be able to claim that you secured the refrag and push that advantage home to the objective. Rafi early here in the main lobby is going to try to make use of the Inox tracker and maybe spy someone out on the roam, but there isn't. There's no one roaming, maybe one player over by the back tower, but already it looks like PDHM have predetermined that they're going to drone this out and that they're going to set it up so that they know if it's clear or not, and they're not getting totally caught off guard and surprised by somebody from the Gatekeepers coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's a good adaptation by PDHM, is because the last time we were here back in round 7, it would take them 90 seconds to even get to the meeting room portion, and we haven't even eclipsed 60 seconds. We're probably at 45 seconds when PDHM had control of meeting room. They'll open up that hatch. Every hatch is going to be popped open for them, and this is going to allow them a lot of flexibility on this map execute. They can push down every single stairwell, but Gunner gets incredibly aggressive. Subarctic now falls, and how and where were the drone economy of PDHM? You had the vertical play on that stairwell early on, but they got off it in favor of just having all of the attackers looking down the meeting room hatch, a perplexing strategy, and unfortunately, it's going to put PDHM in a dangerous position.
Well, in the basement, attack PDHM will flip-flop from one terrible mistake to another now as Gunner collects his second kill, an opener onto Subarctic in a row now, and the Ash has got to be getting a little bit frustrated, dying in such these awkward positions. Never would you really expect someone to be on the main stairs, but against the Gatekeepers, you have to expect the unexpected. Anything can happen, and if the Gatekeepers are gonna do it, there's nothing that you can really do to stop them. Exo moving down the back tower stairs does not check for Feltwinter. The frag grenade even still flies through and claims Gunner, so Exo trades his own death from beyond the grave. Not a whole lot of times you'll see that happen. Meanwhile, WAV is pushed up to the back stairs, but jumping on the drone leaves open an opportunity for Feltwinter to creep up. One that he does not take, however, dropping down and returning to the position of the site. Elbow pressure starting to mount, but PDHM have not a whole lot of time to get this attack going, and the Gatekeepers are still trying to extend.
Boiler and Pillar in control of PDHM as well as Jay Bunkster. Rexavy gets far too aggressive. The operator design at mitigating all plants whatsoever is now off the board. Nitrocell gets sent down range and shot in midair. And now PDHM might be in control of this round. Trades back and forth, and Meister Evil is going to provide information for days. Everybody from PDHM is going to be falling. It's all on Ralphie. Forced to find two. He has possible information. No, he won't. That pre-fire gives it away, but somehow able to win against Whitlock. But time goes for the Gatekeepers. Round 10 is going to deliver them to match point.
Started out so well for the PDHM offense. They had everything together. They had all the proper drones, and they were making good time to garner control of meeting, but As soon as Gunnar came up the main stairs, it's like we're back to square one all over again. And Gunnar is being allowed time after time to make these huge hero plays, and there isn't a villain on PDHM that can stop him and can put him down to cease the madness that has engulfed Oregon here on. And it's a real difficult spot for PDHM to be in. Match point against them. If they want a victory, it'd have to be in overtime with 2 wins back to back to deny the Gatekeepers from taking it now here in regulation. And this looks like a real slippery slope. Going up to dorms, they also have the tertiary defense in reserve, which while it was a win for PDHM, it wasn't free of flaws.
So, Reese, both of us predicted that PDHM was going to win this series, and we're possibly 3 minutes away from being forced to eat our own words, but we don't know how things are going to pan out for PDHM. Are they going to be a swift executor? Are they going to be able to open up all of these positions, particularly South games? Sure, it is being electrocuted right now by Gunnar on that Bandit, but it's going to be easy for PDHM to open it up vertically. You just enter in through classroom, or better yet, you open it up from outside that classroom window. And the same story can be said for the Bandit batteries that are being placed in North Attic. You take control of meeting room through the green side of the map, that green long corridor, and you send more of that explosive gadgetry up range. Now you also have access to IQ, so you don't have to utilize explosives if you don't want to, but what's nice to see is the Gatekeepers have a lot of utility that they can use in overlapping scenarios, and that means when one of their roster members falls to something crazy like Gunnar running out, Gunnar winning a gunfight, Gunnar seeing a nitro cell downrange, you could be prepared for it. Or you can also be prepared for Whitlock doing that.
That gives so much control to PDHM. They've shut down one of the players who was far too aggressive. Whitlock had no business trying to wide swing that angle, and now that gives PDHM a crucial 5 versus 4 in one of the most important rounds here. Especially on match point, you can't afford to make some of those casual mistakes, and frankly, pretty pedestrian for Whitlock to overswing and be exposed to the player holding the prone angle. Look like the hard breach is being denied here. The first is shut down, look like by an impact, and the second, well, it's just simply not there. Subarctic gets Gunnar through the floor, shutting down one of the most influential players. Gunnar has been on a tear, and so shutting him down gives PDHM the leverage that they so sorely need. However, with Rexheavy and Xeno on the site, that leaves the final defender elsewhere, Feltwinter lurking down on the first floor over by the dining room, and he's sure to come up on the flank and cause a real disturbance. Raffi's sitting down on the first floor, looks to be on cams or using his gadget, and Exo is isolated Feltwinter, sitting over here inside the small tower. With Rexheavy getting Subarctic, that's one bit of PDHM's man advantage chipped off, and Feltwinter is easily occupying the mind of Exo, who is not contributing much currently to the execute other than the isolation of one of these defenders. It's a theoretical 3 versus 2 on the site. Exo still holds this angle, bailing off, however, a wide swing from Feltwinter claims his life as Exo's indecision will be his undoing. Feltwinter dropping back down. Look at the Z-ping. They have perfect understanding of this player because the default cam is left up by Raffi, the one player who knows that he can spy all of that utility. PDHM's man advantage has melted into the wind. The arm of the smoke spotted. The wraparound is here. Wab for the first one. He'll get the pre-fire, trying to land the shots. Xeno playing keep away. A 2 versus 2 is prompted. Tries desperately to find Feltwinter. He'll get it. The first one, Xeno onto prompted. Wab, low HP, prone, playing the door. Diffuser out of his hands in 20 seconds to go. It'll be a bloody fight between the 2 final members of this team. Diffuser recovered now. Wab will go for it, but bailing off, he gives crucial time for Xeno to continue playing carefully back here inside the attic. Going for the swing. Wab will tempt it on the pre-fire, and even with the crosshair placement, Xeno still will get the frag. And the Gatekeepers do end up taking it in regulation, mounting the man advantage of PDHM and claiming a win.
Pro tip, if there are default cameras, you shoot them at all costs. If you don't, well, that's going to pan out. That was a round that PDHM should have won. Feltwinter was living rent free in PDHM's head. He was all over the map, particularly over in Small Tower. He opened up those barricades, a position that you know he's going to fly out from. Where was the drone? Where was the communication? Where was that coordination? Because you need to be on that ASAP. Because if you're dilly-dallying on that outside window, changing positions over here, changing positions over here, constantly going back and forth, as you call it, indecision, well, that just eats up time. And you as a defender, you love that. You want to just absorb as much time as possible. And what I call free time, where you're not doing anything in particular, right? If you're doing like a staged roam and you're sniping away drones, that isn't free time because that's you actively wasting time. But if you're doing what Feltwinter did, sitting behind a shelving unit, sitting behind a filing cabinet, processing papers, he was accomplishing nothing other than scrolling on Twitter. A small oversight, but it's the first round of qualifiers. This is PDHM's mulligan.
Yeah, and in Swiss, with 9 rounds, there are a few mistakes that you can let through, and PDHM are not totally out of the woods here. There's one thing to keep in mind: 22 teams in competition, 10 will make it through to the season, and so really, I mean, you just have to be faster than the other 12 and let the bear come and eat them. We have some recent results coming in so far from the matches that have been played out. It looks like T3 Savants managed a 7-3 victory over Revenge Nation. Slaughterhouse Bravo took a very dominant win against Ascension. I don't think a very big surprise there, 7-1 to Slaughterhouse. Nemesis, also known as Something to Prove, they 7-4 at Honor Esports, which is quite a surprise given the caliber of Honor. And finally, of course, our 7-4 with Gatekeepers taking the win against PDHM. We've got more rounds ahead of us, but until we get the rest of those results coming in, I do believe we'll take a brief intermission as we prepare everything for the rest of round 2 here in the Storm Competitive Series Season 5 Close Qualifiers. Stick with us.